Welcome back to the Patrick Coffin Show. If you like spotting false media narratives and talking about the most important things in this life and the life to come, we talk about films and media coverage of events and biases and lots else besides. Catholic theology, literature, great movies, amazing books. Check out the True North movement. It's in the link. It's patrickcoffin.media. We'd love to have you and learn from you. We've got members in 20 countries, and this is why we do what we do. And with that said, as the kids say, I'm so happy to bring back Pia Varma, who writes over at Laissez-Faire Lounge. She's the grand maven and creator, founder, and she's a great dot connecting researcher. Give her a follow, Laissez-Faire Lounge. She's active on TikTok and on Instagram and her other socials. She's going to be even bigger than she is now. Pia, thank you for taking time again. Great to see you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I love our chats, rabbit hole chats.
Yeah, rabbit hole chats.
My son and I go down rabbit holes, and the other day he was asking me what a rabbit hole was, and I was like, oh, it's like when you go down and you learn a lot about something. And so I Googled what a rabbit hole was, and we went down a rabbit hole about like these rabbit holes that are all over the world, apparently. Like,
I love the meta thing going on there. Do you know the origin of rabbit hole? I don't even know.
no, I don't.
Okay. See,
But I
another
think
another rabbit hole for Laissez-Faire Lounge.
yeah, exactly. I think it's this interconnected rabbit hole that exists, apparently.
Yeah. Oh, great then. I'm such a trivia nerd. I even know the origin of the word trivia, but that's another day for another time. I like meta understandings of things. Let's start with where we press pause in your last appearance on the podcast, and that is the ever-stranging, multiplying rabbit holes attached to the Charlie Kirk. I was just going to call it the loud noise event on September 10th at UVU in Utah. I do not know what to believe anymore.
No,
I have a trust metric, and that is baseline. If you're not publishing video or commentary on the Charlie Kirk thing in your own name, I delete you. I literally don't want to see any more. You should have the courage of your convictions and report in your own name. It's called accountability. People can trace you back. Who are you? So I don't care how interesting it is. If someone is reporting under a fake name handle, they're dead to me. So it's like one major filter.
glad that you don't know. I could be AI, so
That's my next question, Pia Varma. Yeah. I don't even, do I trust myself? Am I AI?
am I?
There's a line from the Mickey Rourke movie, Angel Heart. It's a guy who I think he realizes he's dead. He's like, am I real? Like, this is how bad the skepticism goes now because
so
of deep
true.
fake
You're
and
like,
AI.
am I even? Do I exist? Like somebody asked me the other day on Instagram. I think it was like, how do I know that you're not controlled ops or something like that, right? And I was like,
Totally.
you should assume that I am. Like you should assume that everybody is, and do your own research. Ultimately, right? Like life is about getting what you want in life, right? So like if you're stuck in something and it's preventing you from getting what you actually want and resonate with, then that should be your guide ultimately, right?
Yeah, it depends on what you mean by the things that you need. I need the truth. I
Yeah.
think you and I are similarly wired. That's why I call the community True North, because
Yeah, I
True
love
North
that.
is not the same thing as Magnetic North.
Yeah.
Magnetic North is sexy. It's compulsive. It's the shiny metal object. It's the false narrative. That's what a magnetic north is. It's a false narrative because the
Right.
truth is sometimes more quiet. It's
Mhm.
more subtle, and sometimes it's not. It doesn't emerge in the first round of reporting. I wonder
Right.
how many people watching right now who are, say, I don't know, Gen Z, under 30, believe that Lee Harvey Oswald shot an increasingly small target with a Manlincher Carcano from a sixth floor through an elm tree. I wonder how many people believe that. But that was the default setting. That was the first example of the term conspiracy theorist that was deployed by the government against the public in January 1964. That's the origin of it.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've done rabbit holes on Operation Mockingbird and the OSS CIA wanting to neutralize anyone who would speak against the official narrative of lone gun nut. To me, the Charlie Kirk thing is one more lone gun nut attempt at crafting a story. And because of people like you and I, and Candace Owens and Ian Carroll and Ryan Mata, there's a whole kind of army of people who are not bothered by disrupting that grand story.
Mhm.
It's coming unspun.
It
Have you
is.
noticed this? There's like a nervousness with
Well, it's not
actually
even
looking.
it's cutting.
Go
It's
ahead.
like even coming unspun. It's about well, you mentioned the Lee Harvey Oswald thing, and Tucker Carlson said something interesting the other day. A little bit like, a lot of people might not have caught it, but he was talking about Ruby. What's the guy in the Kennedy assassination? Rick Ruby,
Jack Ruby.
Jack Ruby, yeah, and
Yep.
obviously Jack was the one that shot Lee Harvey Oswald, um, and and then Jolly West went to go and see him in the prison, and he got very sick, and he said that he gave him cancer. But anyway, Jack Ruby speaks to like a larger psyop like a larger conspiracy, right, than just the lone shooter narrative. And he was talking about Thomas Crook's digital
Mhm.
profile, and one of the things that Thomas Crooks had Googled was Jack Ruby, which does speak to the larger MK Ultra scene that was surrounding Lee Harvey Oswald. So if Crooks was a lone shooter, why would he be Googling Jack Ruby? Do you know what I mean?
It's almost like he discovered the definition of a patsy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Are you familiar with James Corbett?
No, I'm not.
Yeah,
I
check
the
out.
name.
Yeah, give everyone watching and listening. Give James Corbett a follow. He's from Canada. He lives in Japan. He's a really good researcher. He's the one who put together the 9/11 a conspiracy theory video, which is
Mhm.
like 4 minutes of a brilliant compressed summary of what our government wants us to believe about what happened on 9/11. James has been on my show, and
Yeah.
it's from James Corbett that I learned about a sheep dipped asset. A sheep dipped asset, say that 5 times, is it's a character, a person, I should say, who's hired by the one of the alphabet agencies to craft a backstory so they have a viable and believable footprint. Now, before the rise of the internet, it was much easier to do with people like Lee Harvey Oswald, who was seen on video footage. Well, video was television at the time, handing out communist literature on the streets of New Orleans. He went to Minsk in Russia, where he lived for 18 months. He married his wife. What is her name? She's still alive, actually. Not
She-
Natalia. Doesn't matter. But that's why he became fluent in Russian. He was
Mhm.
actually impressive to the Russians. Now, the
Really?
official narrative sold by J. Edgar Hoover on down was that he was a communist infiltrator. Look, we even see him. Look at him handing out anti-American literature. He's Fair Play for Cuba was another organization he was involved in. Very, very communist, very smelly, very horrible. Easy to sell to the American public at the time, except that none of it was true. Lee
Yeah.
Harvey Oswald was what he said he was in custody. And you can see all this in Mark Lane's magnificent documentary called Rush to Judgment. Mark Lane was an attorney who offered to be his attorney, but that never happened because of what happened the next night. Saturday night, I believe, the 24th or the 25th of November, when Jack Ruby was magically given access to the downstairs of the Dallas Police Department. Now, James Corbett maintains that, like Timothy McVeigh, Lee Harvey Oswald was a sheep dipped asset who wasn't killed by Jack Ruby. And if you watch the footage of Jack Ruby, it's like the Dead Sea parts, and there's Oswald walking between two like fedora hatted. That's not the exact kind of hat, but the detectives of the Dallas Police Department all wore the same hat, all the homicide guys. And there he is walking in custody, and they separate, and Ruby comes up to him, bang. Oswald grimaces and he falls to the ground. Oh, he's dead now.
Mhm.
According to Corbett's research, he survived that. So that was all part of the psyop
It's
thing,
all-
the idea
it's-
of tying off a patsy not by killing him, but by taking him out. What's it? Her name, Oswald's wife's name will come to me later. But anyway,
all
I'm
right.
not even saying that's all true. I think the reality or the mechanism of the patsy is true whether or not he survived his own. Technically, another pet peeve of mine. I believe the etymology of assassination is that it has to be a head of state.
Mhm.
So a high-profile, famous guy who gets killed is not assassinated; he's murdered.
Right, right, right.
Anyway,
You're not dying for your political beliefs or anything like that.
correct.
I mean, for me, it's just so like angering in a way that the government would use a kid like Thomas Crooks, or a kid like Tyler Robinson, if he even exists. I mean, I saw two pictures of one of the kid that Tyler Robinson they claim was the kid. It was the 2019 event where he went to an Air Force event with his uncle Mikey, and it's side by side with the picture of him, the mugshot,
Hmm.
and they don't have the same nose, like, at all.
Right.
And I put it on my Instagram and literally and TikTok as well, and I got, I think, 100, so many comments, comment after comment, being like, "Not the same person, not the same person, not the same person." It's so clear. So there, that dissolves. You would think that would dissolve the psyop,
Hmm.
but and that's my ultimately, because I think what they're doing now is actually they're finding kids on these underground websites, Discord, Telegram, but also things like WPD, and there's a site called Sanctioned Suicide. I don't know what I'm allowed to say, but um,
Does it self-offering,
self-offing, yeah, Sanctioned
self-unaliving? Yeah.
Live.
What was the acronym or the acrostic?
WPD, it's watching people unalive.
Oh wow, that's
And
like
actually,
the
I might.
the darkest of the dark web.
Yeah, 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 exactly. And I've been chatting with someone who I'm going to do a video on this, but I might as well tell you here. But I've been chatting with someone who knows a lot about the dark web. She's become kind of an expert, mainly because she deals with missing persons, and
Hmm.
they go missing, and then you know you find them maybe on sanctioned. They want to find a partner to do that with or whatever, right? And that's what happened in one of her cases. And anyway, and there, and a lot of times these are federal federal guys, these are high end guys from the government and stuff, and they want to, you know um anyway, I don't want to get too much into that, but she did say that she was on the site doing her investigation, and around on July 13th, they posted a picture of an upfront, a picture of Thomas Crooks,
Hmm.
completely like his face and everything, lying on the floor. And it said, it's here before it's even on the news. And I don't know, like,
On
who
the
would
floor,
that?
not on the roof, taken out by Secret Service, or on the floor.
No, like on the roof.
I see. Okay.
It wasn't wouldn't have been Secret Service. It would have been like Beaver Sheriff Department. I don't know who got access. They say the Beaver Sheriff Department was the first to get access to the roof, but yeah. So who at that point would have taken a photo and then instantly put it on a site like that?
All right. This not begs, but raises another linguistic pet peeve. This raises the question of whether Thomas Crooks and Tyler Robinson even exist.
Right.
The
Yeah.
only thing we have are
Or the narratives.
some
Or
photo we have, and it's sold to us over and over, day and night. In the case of Tyler Robinson, we have what looks like sped up. What's the best way to put it? Bigfoot footage.
Mhm.
You've got random shots from a stairwell, a few seconds of footage. Doesn't a university like UVU have 1080p security cameras everywhere?
Oh yeah.
Why the footsie with the visuals? You'd think there would be clear cut angles from
Yeah, yeah,
multiple
yeah. That
cameras,
it
but
would
there
be
isn't.
without question, this is the guy, this is the gun. We haven't even seen the gun. We haven't really seen him holding the gun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
And
no
there's like
Oswald shot of him holding the Mannlicher Carcano. Remember that? Which is
no,
that's
oh yeah, exactly. But then also you wonder, well, you were sorry, I've got two things I want to talk about, but firstly, you wonder if with these psyopy things, if they are psyops, which they look like they are, then is the goal to take out the person that they're trying to assassinate, or is it to amplify the person that they're trying to assassinate? In the like after Charlie Kirk's passing, look how much Turning Point has raised. Look how he's gone from like kind of a social media influencer and a guy who has had a grassroots movement to godlike status, basically.
Mhm.
Uh, JFK, not JFK, but like Martin Luther King status. I barely knew Charlie Kirk before he died.
Yeah, almost deliberate Streisand effect. Have you heard of the Streisand effect?
Yeah, yeah, you said that if something you talk about something, it kind of amplifies it.
Yeah,
Uh,
Barbara Streisand loudly complained about drone photography, and she wrote an article or something like that, and it created a firestorm of interest in her property, and like 10,000 more photos appeared. Like,
right.
no. So
Yeah,
some
it's like
think we
that's
got.
the opposite of what. That's why I think the Queen has the motto, never complain, never explain.
Is that the Queen of England?
Well, that's the royal family's way. You
Oh,
never
interesting.
complain,
Okay.
never explain. Because if you start
Hmm.
explaining, then it just leads to more,
Right.
chaos, more damage control. I mean, and then the other thing I was going to say is that I don't know if I know you've been on a quest to figure out where he was buried, and I don't know if you've had any more luck with that, or where you're.
No. Do you want me to give you the what happened?
Yeah, yeah,
Now, people are very irritated when I say this. Oh, can't you leave it alone? Let the dead man rest.
yeah.
Missing the point altogether.
Of
I
course.
do not. So let me just clarify now. If you're watching, listening now, and you've never you're not up to speed with what my latest door openings or door knockings have involved. I did a video piggybacking on Candace Owens' announcement that Charlie Kirk, in fact, had a Catholic mass and funeral and was buried in a Catholic cemetery. Now, I know people who go to that parish in Scottsdale. It's called St. Bernadette's Parish. The pastor's name is Father Klein. Eric has been seen there, curiously, without any kids.
And
Since
that was the one that they said that he was buried at.
I made that assumption. I don't
That
know if
is the,
anyone. Yeah, I don't know, but
right.
since
And she
a
was there, and
Catholic
she was
mass,
definitely there without kids.
pardon me.
And she was definitely there without kids recently.
Yes, on that Sunday mass. Yeah.
Right.
So I contacted that parish, and I was told they're neither confirming nor denying that he even died. They're not saying that he did or did not get a funeral mass there. I heard one rumor that Bishop John Dolan said the mass. There's no evidence of that. I contacted the diocese, the main overseeing diocese of Phoenix. Same script. Yeah, we can't confirm that or deny that. And I said, can you tell me who gave the directive to be so thick on the phone like this? Because I'm not asking where the grave is located. I don't want to interrupt family privacy, nothing like that. Just confirm that he's dead.
Yeah.
The funeral home in Orem, where the body was allegedly sent from the hospital, the one that was farther away from the closest hospital, where the alleged dark SUV with the back door not quite shut because Charlie was so tall, the photographs of which in the bloody back seat don't exist.
Right.
I think I found that from Laissez-Faire Lounge.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the name of it. It's in Orem. It's a funeral home in Orem. And it says the remains were handled by Hanson Mortuaries in Phoenix.
Right.
And this is the detail of the funeral. And I read the details of the funeral. I was at that event.
Yeah. It was the
That was the
memorial.
Trump rally. Excuse me,
The
the
Trump
Charlie
rally.
Kirk Memorial thing, where every half an hour someone came up to me with a clipboard. Did you register to vote? It was the strangest thing I've ever been to, with the indoor fireworks and everything. Every second person telling me that the FBI got their man, Tyler Robinson. He's a furry-loving Antifa guy, and they got him in 33 minutes, just over and over and over again, the same message.
Yeah.
So I called Hanson Mortuaries. Same verbiage. Yeah, we can't give that information out. So I said, you're not denying or confirming either way. So one brick wall after another. I checked the website of Maricopa County burial records. I checked findagrave.com. There is no extant documentation that Charlie Kirk is dead. No autopsy report, no death certificate's ever been published. I'm not saying he's alive. I'm just saying there's no proof that he's dead. That's a very discreet claim. And I recommend that anyone listening or watching now to make your own phone calls. You call them yourself and get back to us on what they say to you, because that's
Right.
what they said to me.
It almost seems like they were all in lockstep in a way.
Yes, it was. It had the feeling of we're back at March 17th, 2020, where every news reader, every editor, every article was talking about the exact same thing about coronavirus in multiple countries at the same time.
You've got to read this. I can't take any credit for it. I didn't do any of the research. But somebody, I've since this Charlie Kirk thing has happened, so many doors have opened. It's like it's lowered the veil on so many things, and I've gotten so many calls and stuff from people from Utah insiders, or people that are ex-Mormons saying, you have no idea how deep this goes, right? And this guy basically spent, I don't know how many hours or a year, I don't know how long he spent, but basically he's compiled all the trade data of the last 22 years, right? And he discovered that the de minimis roots, right? Like literally the moment the pandemic hit, it's like the light switch turned on and everything was pre-planned. Everything was ready to go to instantly go de minimis, and like certain countries, like that had no, like literally no business to speak of, like suddenly we're in the billions. It
Is the de minimis Act, was that legislation brought forth by Orrin Hatch of Utah.
Yes, Orrin Hatch by in Utah, and also it was, I think, sponsored. I know the Eccles family was involved. Spencer Cox is involved. Yeah,
Now, Eccles, is that the dynasty family that had
Eccles.
Eccles? Sorry, did they have to do in 1913 and 1910 with the
Federal Reserve.
secret launching of the Federal Reserve?
Yeah,
This is almost like a bloodline.
it's crazy. If you think about it, it's crazy. Like even if you go to like 9/11, Guantanamo Bay torture
Hmm.
program, you know,
Yep.
Mitchell and Jessen. Where do you think they're from? Well, one Mitchell's from Spokane, but Jessen went to Utah State University, where Tyler Robinson went for a semester, and was a Mormon, had a big Mormon in his church. Yeah, he had to leave after they got in trouble for the torture program, but you know, and they
There's
were Air Force too. And there's a lot of Air Force around this case right now. Like everywhere I turn, there seems to be people that are in the Air Force or the Army in some way.
either the American Air Force or the Egyptian Air Force.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And that's where it
Speaking,
gets kind of weird because I mean that's my kind of goal with what I do is like just I'm trying to kind of dissolve the psyop so that I think the main reason people use these psyops is to garner sort of an emotional reaction, right? So like, oh look, all this is happening, 9/11, right? Like look what happened, Twin Towers. Now we've got to, you know, band together and go to Iraq and, go to Afghanistan and, go into the Middle East and medal and, all this kind of stuff. And like, and we all go along with it because, what else can we do? And like it's 9/11, who dare question the, the powers that be when, we're under attack from the Muslims and everything. And then you've got, the pandemic that happens and everyone's like, oh, we got to stay at home and all work together. And, it's one big happy family trying to get through this tough time. And then you realize, wait, hold on a second. So I just don't think people are going to, I just want to get people to a point where like something happens and you're like, is that another psyop? Because I'm not really buying it anymore. It's like the boy who cried wolf.
I think you're raising a really good point about spotting patterns. And when you were talking, I was thinking about those psyops that you brought up, but also John F. Kennedy on November 22nd, 1963, the sinking of the USS Liberty in June 1967, the murder of
Yeah.
Martin Luther King Jr., the murder of, well, more to the point, Robert F. Kennedy Sr., and 9/11,
Yeah.
COVID, Charlie Kirk. They all have
Uh,
a, they all have a
Potentially Thomas Crooks.
Thomas Crooks, right? They all have trauma involved. They
Yeah.
all have big, scary events in which people died or could die.
Yeah.
And if you look at the methods and motives of the MK Ultra program, this is the mechanism by which the brainwashing begins to
This is the
exploit a
creation.
real or imagined trauma to make the mind softened for the story that seems to provide hope and release from it. But
Yeah.
actually, it's only cementing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Then you live in a fear state forever.
Yeah, and people who are afraid are much easier to manipulate.
There was like this missing page, this missing CIA page, and then they found it. Did you ever read about that?
No,
No, it's
missing like from a document or from the internet.
there was some document, and then there was the missing page that got found. I'll have to find it, but
It's
basically, in that missing page, it said, and I think it's from the MK Ultra program. From basically, it said, actually, we are gods. Like we are creators. We are so powerful human beings, and by keeping us in a fear state, we never tap into that power to create our own destiny, our own life, our own, world.
who was meant by the royal we there.
We are like individuals, like we are like so the idea of this of the idea of the narrative, right, and of fear is to keep a person small in a small state, right?
Mhm.
Where they don't have any power over their own life, power to change their reality or anything like that. And this document basically said humans do, like, if you can get out of the fear, you can then like build your life.
Mhm.
You can have a good life, but we don't want people to have a good life. We want them to stay in this. trauma bond, basically.
I thought you were talking about the Northwoods document. That's something different. You know about that?
No, I don't.
Yeah, that's another topic for another day. Have you heard of? I'm skipping a little bit, but it's goes back to this because I don't want to go down a rabbit hole that you haven't heard of, like the Northwoods thing. Have you heard of Dorothy Kilgallen?
No.
I got into the JFK assassination through the avenue of Dorothy Kilgallen. Very briefly, you'll find this really fascinating. Dorothy was the highest profile female journalist in the world in the 1950s. She went around the world herself. She was a correspondent with Amelia Earhart. She got the attention of Hemingway, and she knew John F. Kennedy. And Dorothy became the most popular panelist on the number one game show. We're talking 25 million viewers every week. It was called What's My Line? And her fellow panelist was a guy called Bennett Cerf, the founding publisher of Random House. And it was a very popular format. Essentially, there was a guest who came on to great applause, and the three panelists had blindfolds on, and they had to ask yes or no questions and guess the identity of the famous person, maybe someone from, I don't know, literature, dancing, movie stars. In one case, my spiritual father, Archbishop Fulton Sheen, was on the show. He had won an Emmy in 1951. Very, very popular, Bishop Sheen. And I remember watching the episode of Sheen, and after he left the stage, he said goodbye to the panelists, and Dorothy kind of curtsied and kissed his ring. And I thought, oh, she's probably a Catholic. Well, she was a kind of Catholic. And to make a long story a little bit longer, Jack Ruby gave only one journalist an interview in his jail cell, and that was Dorothy Kilgallen. He had two conversations with her, and this was the first televised trial in history. So there were 400 journalists there. Dorothy Kilgallen was the one he picked. Whatever he told her induced her to go to New Orleans with her hairdresser assistant, a guy named Mark Sinclair, and that's when she met Carlos Marcello, the mafia don who was the capo above Jack Ruby. And she began writing a book. And unfortunately, she started bragging to friends that this book is going to blow the lid off the Warren Commission, that Lee Harvey Oswald had nothing to do with his killing. He was a patsy, and that this was an interlocking series of players, including the mob and the CIA and probably Israel, because David Ben Gurion was having a private fist fight, so to speak, with JFK, because JFK did not want Israel to have nukes.
Right.
And she got unalived in December 1965. Very strange circumstances. I'm going to be interviewing her biographer. His name's Mark Shaw soon. Mark Shaw
Wow.
is also tying the deaths of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the frame up of Sirhan Sirhan, who did not shoot RFK Jr., Senior rather, Marilyn Monroe, and JFK. They're all tied together. So stay tuned for that, Mark Shaw. But
Interesting.
again, it's like a cautionary tale. Our side wants to debate, their side wants to delete.
Yeah. But when you say their side, right, it's an
Yep.
interesting thing because, you know, I I feel like what's gone on since maybe 2016, right? I kind of became more aware of it in 2018, but even more so like around the pandemic and Black Lives Matter and stuff, right? That there was this big kind of conservative movement, this like this opposition movement, which I thought was quite cool. I'm not a huge fan of the whole like angry conservative thing. I
Mhm.
think at a point in my life I could have gone down that route, the Ann Coulters of the world or Michelle Malkins, but I just like I kind of took a longer route to try to find my voice because I don't want to force people into anything. I just want to say what I believe, and if you agree, you agree. If you don't, you don't.
Mhm.
So that angry, like
Polemical.
debate as blood sport kind of thing. Like
Yeah,
we're trying to
yeah,
find the truth, right? We're not trying to I don't
yeah.
like want to fight you to the death over my ideas because I'm trying to find the truth, right? So anyway, I kind of it's like it's almost like I felt like they took ideas that I agree with in a lot of ways, right? Like I
Yeah.
consider myself more libertarian conservative. But then, to use that for ends that I don't agree with, like I always gave Trump a really long leash, right? I mean, I always gave him like a lot of credit on laissez-faire. I like criticize him and also praise
Mhm.
him. But recently, I'm really finding it hard to praise him because,
Yeah.
like, he's made so much money on Bitcoin since he's become president. There's so many things that I'm just like, not what you kind of said was gonna, that's not what a lot of people I think signed up for. It's
I 100%, 100%. So
like, you're
let's
like,
talk
well,
about it.
whose side are we talking? It's like it's not really the woke left or the based right, because like I don't kind of agree with any of that.
Yeah, let me lay down what I mean by us versus them. I don't really identify as a conservative. I think the conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat paradigm is broken. Those are, to me, garbage terms, and they're very misleading. What is a conservative anyway? If anything, I want to be based, which is a sort of a portmanteau. It's the opposite of debased. So by based means I believe in masculinity and femininity. I believe
Yeah.
in truth and falsity. I believe in right and wrong. And I want to partner with people who are rowing in that direction. Not tribal, not part of Con Inc., which is part of the problem. As soon as you join a tribe, tribalism sets in very quickly and you're afraid to think independently. Look what happened to Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Independent of whether, I mean, only heaven's perfect, but we have MAGA completely redefined, and MAGA looks like the old MAGA. And so maybe MAGA itself is one big fat psyop. So by our side, I mean people who are truth tellers and truth seekers, who
Yeah,
don't
we
want
don't
to play games.
be
We just want to let our hair down and tell the truth. We don't want to plot anything bad. We don't want to create a magician's misdirection so we can get away with something nefarious on the side. That's not how when I say my side, it's not. I'm not even describing a tribe or people with uniforms or even a religion.
Yeah,
It's a mindset that's angled toward the truth and willing to stand up and say the truth and seek it, and then
yeah,
live under its light. This is, if I've learned anything in life, is that life comes down to two different propositions.
yeah,
You subordinate desire to truth, or you subordinate truth to desire.
yeah.
So thanks for
Makes
the. I can explain it
No,
further.
I like it, but how does that square with your, Catholicism?
For me, Catholicism is, well, obviously, it qualifies as a religion. The Latin word religion comes from religare, which means to bind back together. So it's the
Mhm.
reconciling of humanity with God through his son, Jesus Christ. But Catholicism is also a lens. It's a lens through which you see the world as charged with the glory and the presence of God. And this is summarized by the word logos in Greek. This is the word that was only around for 200 years before John wrote his gospel. And John 1, verse 1 is the first sort of high profile use of the word logos, which means, in English, it means word. In the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. Well, logos is a much more rich concept. It means intellect, it means design, it means order, it
Logic.
means it's logic, exactly, logic. Any word that ends in ology is the study of. So that's logos.
But then do
So,
you, so, because I love religions, right? Like I
mhm,
think every religion has so much kind of truth in it. And I guess you could kind of say the same, because I mean, like you look at something like Buddhism or Hinduism. Yeah, you can say, okay, there's these many gods and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, in Hinduism, these are just concepts. They're like gods that represent spiritual concepts. Ultimately, Hinduism is about Brahman, which is the one God, right? And but to me, it's more like philosophy, right? It's like the way different kinds of people make sense of
mhm.
surroundings and the world around them. So yeah. So while I mean, I guess, yeah, I don't really claim to be any. I sort of claim to be every religion, but also kind of agnostic and also kind of atheist. It's like a really weird, like, but it
You're,
makes
you're
total
the
sense to me.
you're the e-box. You click off all the above.
All the above, like.
Well, the English writer and art school dropout, who's a complete genius, named G.K. Chesterton. You may have heard of Chesterton. He wrote a book called The Everlasting Man. And Chesterton's book, Everlasting Man, since you're bringing it up, it's worth exploring a little bit. It's a description of how pre-Christian religions, and he goes through not just and Zoroastrianism, Jainism, but also Greek and Roman mythology. And he found that many of them have the same avatar who comes to earth, dies, and rises. Now, the enemies of Catholicism will say, see, Jesus is a stolen avatar. These were ideas planted centuries before he arrived.
Yeah.
Chesterton turns that on its head, and he says,
Mithras, right? Didn't Mithras have a similar story to Jesus? Mithras? It
yes,
usually
yeah, and
Mithras.
so did Lao Tzu, so did Confucius, yeah, so did Roman poets.
Yeah.
So did the. It's called the world flower prophecy of the Aztecs. For 3,000 years before Christ, they had this idea of a savior to come who had a holy mother. Go
Yeah.
figure. But Chesterton turns it out right side up, and he says, "Look, if God in real life was going to become man, if he was going to take on flesh, it's fitting that he would plant archetypal seeds in every culture, so that when the real thing happened, there'd be an instant, oh." My gosh, this is we're already prepared for this.
Yeah, yeah.
Even the Ford company will telegraph and advertise a year before when the next model's coming out. So when it arrives, it's sort of an anticipation
It's
thing. So at the heart of the claim of the Catholic Church is a proposition that's very offensive when you first hear it, and that is that Jesus saying, "There's no one can come to the Father except through me." That
mhm.
there's only one Savior, one mediator. Now that sounds so narrow until you understand that the claim also involves Jesus being God, not a small g God, but God in the flesh.
Yeah.
And where did he get his flesh? From his mother. Her DNA is his DNA. So we have the truth of the Trinity, which is there's one God shared by three divine persons. The
Mhm.
second person has two natures, human and divine. The divine he
Interesting.
got from his father, and the human he got from his mother.
Yeah.
So it's not Catholicism true, everything else false. From the Catholic perspective, it's the Catholicism is the fullness of all the truth, that all truth, wherever it is, points in one direction to the Logos. Another word for Logos is Jesus, according to John 1, verse 1. So that's
Mhm.
Catechism 101 compressed
Is
real.
there something about that, like, that you could say is, like, also infidelity? Because Mary was married to somebody else?
Infidelity? Well, she was married to Joseph. They had a valid marriage, but the virgin birth is that she didn't give birth to Jesus the ordinary human way. that
Right,
God,
of course,
that
yeah.
God, the Holy Spirit directly came upon her. Now that's obviously that's something that's an article of faith. You can't argue up to that. You can't argue up to the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist, or the fact that we have guardian angels, or that purgatory exists. There's a lot of truths of the faith that God would have to disclose. That reason alone can only get you so far. Now,
Well,
reason alone can get you to believe to the knowledge that God exists. This
right,
is one
right.
of the great.
This is, like, a hugely long, I mean, 'cause
Yes,
like, Jesus Joseph be considered, like, the stepfather to Jesus? Like, I don't know.
foster father. Yeah.
Foster father, right. The other thing that's interesting that I found, right, very interesting, is that, like, actually religions, if you think about it, like, even Judaism, and you had obviously the Greek religions and, or, like, the Greek gods and Hinduism and stuff, and that was all around. I have a whole timeline, but was it, I guess it was, like, 3000 BC, like, the Bronze Age, right? You had all the
Mhm.
multi gods. Religions were typically polytheistic, and then it was kind of around the same time, like, the same few hundred years, right, that you had more of the monotheistic religions coming to be, and, and you had the ideas of, like, Lao Tzu, in and Buddha, I mean, like, in India and China, and then you had, like, the
Mhm.
ideas of, what's his name, and Aristotle, the Greek thinkers, which is all around a few hundred years. So it's almost like this, like, around the world, like, maybe there's, like, an energy, and everyone kind of taps in, and it clarifies the energy a bit more and bit more. You know what I mean? Like, so you go from the polytheistic to the monotheistic to more about the humanism and the logic, and I don't know. That's a longer chat for a longer
It is,
day.
yeah. We're talking about the mystery of the interplay between eternity and time, and God's plan and human freedom. There does seem to be certain epochs in time, and if you look at the great story arc, where a lot happens in a short, compressed amount of time. That's certainly
Yeah, and patterns
true. Yeah.
playing
Hmm.
out all around the world in a similar kind of way, in a way.
Yeah. Yes. But
But
I think that was a. I think
yeah, let's
the
go back to Charlie Kirk, 'cause, I know we don't have
example
that much, but
was on just on true. You asked me how does this going for true north as opposed to magnetic north, how does that fit with Catholicism? I hope I answered you at least
oh, yeah,
halfway.
definitely. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Um,
So it's
let me.
it's your personal spiritual relationship with Catholicism, and, as long as you're willing to go against the team, you know, if they do something that goes against your own, because ultimately your conscience is what matters, right? Like a lot of people try to bypass their conscience by saying, oh, the Bible says I can do it. There's a workaround here. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, religion is not meant to be a workaround. It's meant to be like you're supposed to have the answers also inside you of right and wrong and
Mhm.
what is good and evil. You know what I mean?
I do. There's an anecdote, probably apocryphal, about W.C. Fields on his deathbed, lifelong atheist, and he was found reading the Bible on his deathbed, and his family asked him, W.C., why are you reading the Bible? You're an atheist. Loopholes, looking for the loopholes. Uh,
Amazing.
so my conviction as a Catholic is that the teachings of the church are never going to lead me astray. The only reason I believe them is because they're true. But outside that, I don't have to buy into church politics. I don't have to think of everything that the guy in the white hat in Rome says is absolutely true. And I argue that human corruption in the leadership of the church is proof of the divine foundation of the church, because it's run by incompetent sinners. If that's all it is, it would have folded about 2 weeks after the resurrection. Here we are, 2,000 years, it's
Yeah.
still here. It likely has God behind it. But maybe we can segue to the angry denunciations that Candace has had and I have had to the idea that Charlie Kirk was very interested. In fact, he told Bishop John Brennan, formerly of LA, now of Fresno, I'm this close to becoming Catholic. He was seen going to St. Bernadette's. He was seen coming in and out of the Eucharistic chapel. You don't do that if you think the Eucharist is just a symbol. He wore the St. Michael's medal, which is very counterintuitive for an evangelical to wear. That's a very Catholic icon, even though there's no documented proof that he did have any kind of, not just Catholic, any kind of funeral. Have
Right.
you noticed this? There's twin paths here. Path number one, that the TPU, let's just call it Team TPUSA, and the Jack Posobics and the Ben Shapiro's and the Josh Hammers, all those people,
Mhm.
Pastor Rob McCoy, they don't want two of these pathways to get to their destination. Number one, Charlie was about to become a Catholic. Number
Mhm.
two, Charlie was angling away from the Zionism, which characterized his approach, his thinking, and now to this day, TPUSA.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that those twin denials? I mean, they're not
And-
just, that's not true. No, they're like bitter about this, that
Yeah.
both of them
Yeah.
can be true.
Well, I mean, it was weird that right after the Charlie Kirk assassination, you get like five of the top, Israeli leaders being like making sure everyone knew that Charlie was like a steadfast, lion-hearted supporter of Israel. And then the Catholic part of it. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me. It's like almost like there's this. I mean, if I was a really religious person and there was going to be like a second coming of Jesus, I would almost say like we're almost there now, because it feels like there's like a religious war going on in a way, like between lots of groups, like, and maybe groups that might have worked together. Like I think the Mormons and the Jews, or the Israelis rather, like have worked together in a way to create the nest since Joseph Smith, right? I think
Mhm.
he sent Orson Hyde to Israel to create the nest for Jesus's return. So since then, the Mormons and the Jews have kind of worked together to create. They've had the same objective, is to create the nest for Jesus's return. But I wonder if it's maybe. But then at the same time, they also think that they're the original Israelites. So I
Mhm.
don't know. I have no idea like what anyone is thinking. I think there's just like a lot of. I mean, I'm a Hindu, right, by birth, so I'm kinda like, I don't know what these battles are about, like, I didn't realize they were even going on, you know? And then you have obviously the Candace camp. Candace Erica, I guess, is Catholic, or I know her mom is Catholic, Nick Fuentes is Catholic, like, so you've got the Catholics, and I don't quite know where they sit, and then you've got the Jews, the Ben Shapiros of the world. It's strange, don't you think?
It's such a confusing mismatch,
Yeah.
is what it is. I paid attention to Erica's sit down with Jesse Waters,
Mhm.
and I'm sorry she didn't. I mean, I want everybody to be Catholic. I don't think she sounded very Catholic, or at least she didn't make Charlie sound Catholic. She said, "Oh yes, when he died, daubing non-existent tears.
Mhm.
Sorry, you can shame me for saying that everybody grieves differently if you want to. I really don't care.
Yeah.
Daubing non-existent tears."
Everyone has the same feeling, I think. Not everyone, but a lot of people have the same, like, gut feel.
Yeah, when she said he probably blinked and realized, hey, I guess I was raptured.
Yeah.
The rapture theology is from Puritan England, John Nelson Darby. It's only 150 years old. Nobody believed in this rapture thing prior to that in England, 4 or 5 generations ago. Charlie would, if he was that serious a thinker, and he seems to be a very sharp guy, sort of an autodidact, a great reader of history, he would not have bought into rapture theology any more
Right.
than he would buy into till the end. As Charlie became more and more Catholic, he became less and less Zionist. Catholicism and Zionism are almost oil and water, because the conviction of the Catholic Church is that we are the new Israel. The
Right.
church is the new Israel because Jesus is the Jewish Messiah who created a covenant with everybody of all times and not just one people for one time.
I see. Yeah,
Um,
because in a weird way, I mean, the rapture almost has an evangelical feel to it,
it
doesn't it?
is. It's strictly. It is an evangelical slash Zionism thing, and this
Yeah.
is why they're obsessed with building the third temple. It's a very dumb idea,
Mhm.
because Jesus is his body is the new temple.
Yeah.
There's no nest. Jesus Christ is the sovereign God who can return whenever he wants, and this idea that we're going to prep for him. Of course,
Well,
the
I
Jews
think
are.
I honestly, my belief is that if he does come back, it's to be like, "What are you guys doing? Like, this is
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
I have to come back down to tell you that it's wrong what you're doing." You
One of
know?
the things he said is, "Well, when the Son of Man returns, will he find faith on the earth?" Almost
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I saw a bumper sticker in front of me in LA once. It cracked me up. It said, "Jesus is coming soon. Look busy."
I love that.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting. It's very interesting, actually, and it's really interesting about how, when I did find out that the Mormons have an outsized representation in the CIA and the
Hmm.
FBI. It's like almost seems like they were using these government bodies for this religious end in a lot of ways. And I don't know, like I think about I think about like recently the situation. We were talking about the interview that Sean Ryan did. Sean Ryan obviously has very big military ties. The interview he did with Harpole.
Right. Let's turn to that. But the Brian Harpold interview of this week, as you and I are talking now, uh, yeah, a
I mean,
C-
a Navy SEAL made a comment in the comments below that he's like, no, sorry, he's a SWAT guy, and he's like,
Mhm.
we would have had a meeting, we would have checked everything, no way would we have just, you know, gotten a message and said everything's okay. Like we would have scanned everything. There would have been like final meetings, and there's a whole protocol. And
Mhm.
they Brian Harper wanted to, or yeah, I mean, the whole interview was very like, wanting to be sympathetic to the security detail and what they're going through and everything. And it's kind of like, we just want to talk about like the bottom line. What's the bottom line? You know what I mean? Like,
And
I'm
no,
sick of
but
this drama.
the 800-pound bottom line elephant in the parlor is that you only had one job, and your target died. You failed.
Yeah. You had one job. And what's the one thing you do? Check the roofs, right? Where is the freaking shooter gonna be? Gonna be in the
Yeah.
roof. And check the bags, make sure there, aren't guns in them. I don't know. It's just
And
the whole thing is just BS. And then you look at the security detail, everyone from, Blake Hariff. Also, interestingly, there was a guy I thought was originally Blake Hariff, who's a like a Hollywood guy that basically teaches people how to die properly, like on camera. And I still to this day think that that guy looks more like this guy Mikhail Vega than Brian Hariff. And Mikhail Vega was also interviewed a little while ago by Sean Ryan, so they are kind of in the same ecosystem. But anyway, that's beside the point. But yeah,
well,
you've got like Rick Cutler, you've got Pierce Beck, and you look at all of their backgrounds, and it just like every one of them have like interesting, kind of shady not shady, but like you could easily see them being three-letter maybe, or something
mhm.
to do with military. He was in Guatemala. Brian, not Brian Harpole, but and not Pierce Beck, but the other one, Cutler, was in Guatemala with Tim Ballard for a while. I know that he sued Tim Ballard because I think his wife and him did, or some people say he sued Tim Ballard, other people say Tim Ballard sued him. I'm not quite sure the full story, but there's a lot of interesting connections there for an event on a tour that seemed like just a stop by. They all seem to have ties there in a weird way.
Mhm. They do. A lot of them look the same too. Who's the guy? The shot Charlie. The shot Charlie who was filming himself. It's not
Yeah.
Tyler. What's his name?
God, I can't remember his name now,
It's
but
another bearded guy with sunglasses and a plaid shirt. Looks like a lumberjack. They all look. They're almost
oh,
cookie cutters of each other.
that Harif?
Hmm?
It might have been Harif, actually, Blake Harif.
Oh, I don't know. It
I don't
wasn't Tyler. There's
It wasn't.
another one with accusations that he's a GHEY groomer predator.
Oh, right, okay. I think that would be maybe Cutler.
The guy with the video or the guy accused?
Oh, no, no, the guy with the video? No, he wouldn't have been the guy with the video, sorry. This
You,
guy's
you
not part
said
of
Charlie, and
the.
all of a sudden he announces Charlie's dead. God help him. What?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, you're 40 yards away, and everything is out of focus. Everything is too fast.
Yeah.
And Brian Harpole in that interview
Mhm.
says he put his hand in the wound because it was a carotid hit. Now, I would like to hear from people who right now have ER experience. If you're watching, medical people, I've got a lot of RNs that watch me because I talk about anatomical things that have to do with deaths and causes of deaths. When a round, now they've changed the caliber altogether. Now it's no one is saying it's a 30-06, which would blow the almost decapitate Charlie Kirk. So
Yeah,
the Man of Steel story by Andrew Colvett is not true. If
not
it's a
true.
30-06, there's a fragment. Now Candace has seen the behind footage angle. I don't know why
But she
Candace.
said, "Trust me, bro," right? She's not actually shown it.
Why hasn't she demanded its release? We've seen the worst thing, right? The goopy stuff coming out the front of his neck, whatever that
Well,
is.
it's weird because she won't consider that it could have been, like, a squib or anything. She's just saying that it was a definitely that he got shot, and she's seen the footage. A lot of her stuff is just like, "I've seen it, and just trust me." You know,
Or an inside source has said, like the Catholic funeral and cemetery. And I'm not saying Charlie.
and
I'm
she
not
never
saying
corrects it if it's right or wrong. Like, who would have told her? It probably would have been Erica, right? That told her that he was buried.
from our bulging, you would think file, yeah. But
Yeah.
I bring up Harpole's claim for a reason. If, as he said in the Sean Ryan interview, I put my hand on the wound.
Yeah.
Well, a carotid getting slashed by a round is going to be blood spatter everywhere.
Yeah.
A carotid is like 8 inches from your heart. It's like a
And we
blood.
saw the blood. The blood was, like, crazy. It would have been everywhere.
It looks like a Polish sausage sort of popped out of his neck. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no footage of
No.
any blood on his shirt,
I
his
can
white
see
shoes,
people
nothing.
running with him. In fact, I found there's some high res photos I got of that. It's on that McClintock website, and there's no blood on in any of those photos.
Hmm. So I don't trust anyone who, this is just me. If you're ex CIA or you're retired, I know you're not really retired. I don't think you ever really leave the agency,
No.
even if you're on SEAL Team 6. I suspect, I can't prove this, so I like to hew as closely as I can to evidence. So I'm getting over my skis here. Sean
Mhm,
Ryan's massive audience has the whiff of artificially inflated.
mhm.
I don't really understand how he mushroomed so quickly.
Well, that's just how I feel about so many people. Like, and then you look back and you can't see the origin, the growth. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure if I look back at your videos or if you look back at my videos, my first one, it was just me reading a book. I was like so nervous to actually say anything on camera. And then obviously it was like I had 300 viewers for like years, for a couple.
Organic, and then there's a bump up, and maybe a big fish will mention you, the small fish. That's happened to me too.
You have a
And
bit,
it goes like this. It doesn't go bonk. It's not a
yeah,
hockey stick,
it's not just like I'm going to astroturf you and you're just going to be the
right?
most famous thing ever. And I know for a fact it was weird because like I used to know Ben Shapiro like back in the day when he was a little bit before the Friends of Abe kind of picked him up and ran with him. And yeah, all those conservatives were, basically. I mean, at the time I was like kind of wanting to be given a chance because I was like Indian, I was a girl, I was conservative, so I thought
You were willing to run for office.
willing to run for office. I was like, I should be like a poster of the conservative Republican movement because, like, you know, like I kind of tick a lot of boxes in terms of bringing, like people think of it as the white older man kind of party, but I I tick a lot of boxes. You'd think that they might
Mhm.
want to use me in some way, but nobody really wanted to. And, you
That's
know, um,
I think you dodged, pardon the metaphor, I was going to
no,
say
I definitely
dodged
dodged a
a
bullet.
bullet.
Yeah, and then also I never would have like been able to be told what to do. I'm just like not that kind of
They
person. So
would have tried to pay you some golden leash money.
yeah, and I it's not my nature.
Mhm.
I couldn't even imagine in a million years like being okay. And I think they sensed that right off the bat. So I
Mhm.
don't even think it was even a thing. And then when 2018 happened and all these conservatives came up, and I was just like, how did that happen? Like I don't understand it, you know. And then when you start to look at the money that was being pummeled into like PragerU and Daily Wire and
No,
turning
TP
and
USA. Uh-huh.
and this is where I'm confused about Candace Owens because I'm like, she was at the center of this, right? And you know, if it's true that this was a almost like a deep state play, right? Like a I mean, these operators were these funding sources. This is like the Koch brothers and um, the Mercers. You know, I mean, even like yeah, I mean, even the British angle, like all those guys that got involved. I mean, these are old conservative money guys, and so this is like it's deep state basically in a way. It's like I don't I haven't quite figured out the deep state. I don't know if there's one or two deep states. I'm not quite sure who fits in what
Yeah.
category because there's like the Russiagate guys that are like the Comeys, the Brennans and Comeys and Clappers of the world, and then there's the Michael Flynns and those guys of the world. And I don't know how it all works, but yeah, it just seemed to me like a military operation, like from top to bottom. Just and then you look at Charlie Kirk, like the guy he went to go see at that restaurant the day of the shooting in the morning. He went to go speak in an event. He did an interview, but the guy that set it up was actually his cousin-in-law, his cousin Kelly. It's her husband, and Charlie, has known this guy since he was 5 years old. When there's a picture of Charlie 5 years old, and him and Charlie's cousin were getting married. So he's been in Charlie's life for a long time, and he's ex-Air Force, and his
Of
father is
course.
long time Air Force. I think a lifer in the Air Force. Then you see Erica Kirk's background, her family background, and the airplanes are following Erica Kirk, and Candace Owens is going, oh, they're tracking Erica Kirk because they've wanted to take her out and her and Charlie out for all this time, and I'm like, or maybe these are skiff airplanes, right? Like so they're like almost like an Air Force One. And if this is like it's not a grassroots student movement, it's more of a high-end military operation to
Yeah.
mobilize youth, like like they did in Germany and stuff is get the youth, right?
Well,
Um,
they did it with. Can't even talk. I'm getting ahead of myself. They did this with Taylor Swift, and they did it with John Lennon. There's a whole book on John
You
Lennon as
you notice that Taylor Swift, they bumped her popularity up so much right before the election,
of
and then at
course.
the right time, she did her endorsement for Kamala, and they probably and it was like they knew because after Biden, she did the Biden cookies, to bump him
Mhm.
up, and then they were like, "Oh, we can maybe use her." So then
Totally.
that's why
Hmm.
I was like, "Why is she everywhere? She's all over every
Every
magazine,
magazine. Totally.
and it was just for
Singing
that
those.
one
Yeah.
tweet where she gave Kamala the endorsement. Is that how I felt?
Yeah. Well, I think a couple of reasons why reasonable people would think that Sean Ryan is lying, as is Brian Harpole, is that they ask questions that there's no way they don't know the answer to, unless it's like a strategic fiction for the sake of the entertainment of the show.
Yeah.
How can a former CIA operative, retired Navy SEAL, not know what a patsy is? Oh, what's a pat? How can you not know what a patsy is?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
There's the red flag.
and Brian Harpole, how can he not realize that by saying he put his hand into a carotid strike of a round at high velocity, that's not going to be a bloodbath for everyone within 2 or 3 feet?
Yeah.
There's another thing that Harpole said that was obviously not true, and I'm drawing a blank on what that was. It was like a big thing. Of course, he was firmly defending Charlie's fervent Zionism,
Mhm.
He said that. What was the thing that he said that didn't make any sense coming from him? Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah, I know that I mean, there were so many things he said that didn't make a lot of sense. But yeah, and I think that it's going to come to a point like Candace has to address the elephant in the room, which is the Erica Kirk airplanes and maybe Erica Kirk's mom, and she just won't do it.
Do you think there's an alliance between Erica Kirk and Candace Owens behind the scenes?
Yes, I think it's like I cannot wrap my head around the idea. If my theory is correct, that Turning Point has been this deep state operation, right? Then I can't wrap my head around the idea that Candace is just figuring this out now.
She said recently that if Erica told her to stop, she would stop. And someone said, "Why don't you comment on Erica Kirk?" And she says, "Well, except for the Jesse Waters interview, she really hasn't done anything."
Yeah, yeah.
But what she has done is so weird ass.
Oh, yeah. Well,
So
even yesterday,
off
have you
song. It's just everything about it, from the lace pants to the non-existent
oh my
tears
god, the lace
to the
pant.
personality. The personality changes on a nanosecond. Now,
Yep.
normally Candace is on this like white on rice. She's very astute and above average in being observant,
Mhm.
which tells me there's like a kind of a tacit agreement.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about what you're doing. And you notice from the other side, from the other perspective or direction, every other high-end TPUSA influencer has made a career out of attacking Candace Owens without tagging her, except for one, Erica
Yeah.
Kirk. That's what tells me there's a behind-the-scenes high-fiving
Even
going
though
on.
she's completely gone after TPUSA, which Erica Kirk is now the head of.
Yes.
And then you have other issues like the fact that, yeah, she won't mention Erica Kirk's mom. She really doesn't go after, like, or she won't say certain things like, I know that Ian Carroll watches my videos, and I did say the other day about the guy that Charlie Kirk met in the morning. I mentioned in one of my videos that he is a that he's Charlie Kirk's actual cousin, right? Well, cousin-in-law, like, not just it said, oh, I thought maybe when he said, "Oh, it's the loss of our cousin," I thought maybe it was like brethren kind of thing, but no, like they are actually blood, like they're family. And
Mhm.
so, but Candace didn't mention that at all. She didn't even follow up saying, "Oh, the guy he met was actually the cousin," or anything like that.
Mhm.
She, you know, never never would ever question the idea that Charlie Kirk might not be dead, which is a crazy conspiracy, but it's like you need to put every possibility out at this point because we don't.
Everything is on the table.
Everything's on the table,
Keep saying,
right?
I mean, oh, Patrick doesn't believe that he's dead.
Yeah,
I'm just saying I'm an
yeah,
honorary Missourian. Show,
yeah,
show me, show me,
but
and then
but
you can
Candace said
stop me.
anyone that thinks she says, like, "Trust me, bro." Anyone that thinks basically that he's not dead is like ridiculous, and I've seen the footage and all that kind of stuff, so she won't go to that she won't go down that angle. She won't go after Erica. She won't really address the fact that she still has like weird ties in terms of like her there's a guy named John Mappin who lives in England. He's runs this eccentric castle here in Cornwall called Camelot Castle, and he is a Scientologist, huge. He's a main backer of Turning Point UK. He was the one that he got Turning Point UK started. He's the one that introduced Candace and George Farmer. But he's also a huge Nigel Farage backer. He goes on GB News a lot. He's a big Trump supporter. In fact, he raised a huge amount of money, so much so that Eric Trump gave him a shout out. And he's been going crazy on the defense of Candace Owens and saying she's of complete right mind and all this kind of stuff, and and that he's in contact with her a lot. And so, you know, you think about GB News, which George Farmer is a shareholder and on the executive board of. That's like a pro-Israel media outlet. They never criticize Israel, and they're Trump, and Trump is bringing GB News to the U.S.
I didn't know
So
that piece. That's the outfit that that fired and banned Father Calvin Robinson,
Oh,
who's
is it?
another truth. Do you know Father Cal?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, another guy on Team True North.
Okay, interesting. And they banned him.
Yeah, he was unceremoniously fired from GB News. Very hugely popular. He's very articulate and funny and witty and very brave. And they just want yes men.
It's interesting because it's like there's so many ties that just don't make sense. Like even today there were these tweets there, sorry, there were these emails that got leaked from Veritas, Project Veritas,
Yeah,
about
Peter,
dis-
what was that? It was no context. I thought, am I being
yeah,
psyoped by Project Veritas now? Doesn't
well,
say to, doesn't say from, just like Candace Owens. We have to blackmail her more effectively. Get on the
so
Candace Owens case.
weird.
Who was that?
And it was from like 2021 and it was like randomly got leaked at this exact moment in
All
time
right, the
to make
daughter of William Barr, maybe.
yeah, yeah. And then something about like, oh, we'll just dangle an underage girl in front of so and so. Like what? Like you just got like what like a
Armstrong. Who's Armstrong? That was
yeah,
that was the
yeah,
that was the.
Louis Armstrong, and like the whole thing just like makes no sense. And also the weird thing is that the Project Veritas, right, has the same exact funding sources, Donors Trust, right, which is
Mhm.
funding the entire conservative machine that is
Yeah.
at play. Why are they coming now to Candace's defense? Because you
Mhm.
know they're also funding Turning Point.
I'm going to put a link in a little note to self. I'm going to put a link in my show notes to my interview with Justin Leslie. Justin Leslie was trained by James O'Keefe, and he was the guy sitting across from remember the black gay dude from Pfizer that got
Yeah.
the sting? Well, that was Justin having dinner with him. And
Okay.
he left Project Veritas, and he suggests, with one example after another, that James O'Keefe is maybe kind of sort of a CIA asset as well.
Right.
You
Interesting.
notice there's similar.
It's true. That would be very
He's
interesting.
gone is like everyone's curiously incurious about what happened about his departure. People are curiously incurious about Thomas Crooks. People are
Yeah.
curiously incurious about, remember Stephen Paddock, the Mandalay Bay shooter from 2017?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What happened to that?
No, I know
So we
exactly.
get more like a tsunami. It's like they're trying to, the media machine, including the alternative media, are trying to treat us like we're targets of a fire hydrant, and you
Mm,
like trying to sip from a fire hydrant.
yeah.
There's like 12 new revelations every
They
day.
want us confused, they want us off balance, they want us
Mhm.
scrambling to keep up with what they're doing, and, like, I mean, for me, my objective is I want to, like, get to I not get to the truth, it's more like to dissolve the psyop, to make people see, "Look, guys, like, this is like, they're feeding you a crock of shit,"
Mhm.
basically, sorry my
Yeah.
language, but
No,
you know,
it's
like, once people start
tough
seeing
use.
it, then we can just go back to your gardening, have a nice life, like, go on some dates, like, stop buying they feed off our energy.
This is why I did a video last month called "The Media is a Narcissist." It's a covert narcissist.
Yeah,
Narcissists feed off. Doesn't have to be praise and glory. You don't have to be stroking the ego of the narcissist. You could be expressing intense rage. It's all the same. It's a vampiric energy siphoning from
the
you,
energy,
and the more confused they can get you, the better.
yeah. It's
Um,
all part of the game, and you see it's like it's Project Gladio, like, it's the strategy of tension, do you know about
you've
that?
mentioned that before. I need to get up to speed on Gladio.
Yeah, it's like a Cold War strategy. I mean, I don't know much about it, I'm just learning about it, but David Myatt, who actually started I guess he started '09 Angles, which is one of these groups designated as, like, a online terrorist kinda group, like 764.
Hmm.
These newly on the radar of the FBI and stuff, but, like, David Myatt, they say, was part of the project, um, Gladio, and it was like, what do they call it? The false Italy's false flags and, the, what's it called? Yeah, it's basically the strategy of tensions, it's called, and what you do is you silo people. If you keep people in silos, then they don't talk and they don't resolve anything. You keep
Because
people
they're and you
divided.
you and you do that by threatening them with something scary, like, "Oh, I don't know, a virus that could kill you,"
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
and then and
Or
you
even this thing, like, you get all these conservatives, and they're all in a movement, but then they branch off, and this one's doing this, and this one's doing that, and this one's doing that, and this one's doing that, so they branch you off into new silos.
Mhm. Well, the strategy of the elites is not unite and conquer, is it?
No, exactly. Yeah.
Did you know that? Oh, by the way, before I want to ask you about something that I watched Charlie get asked and answer. I remembered the thing that was sort of the doppelganger opposite or counterpart to Sean Ryan asking Brian Harpole what's a patsy, like he doesn't
Yeah.
know, and that
Yeah.
is Harpole asks him who George Zinn is.
Yeah, that's
Are you
crazy.
kidding me?
Yeah.
I'm a
Insane.
guy. I'm a guy with a laptop. I know who George Zinn is.
Yeah. He's literally in the center of this entire
Hmm.
thing and doesn't know who George Zinn is.
Yeah, from our bulging as if file.
Yeah.
But the question I just saw an interview with Charlie was a snippet of it, and I don't even I couldn't identify the questioner, the host, and it was on who rules the world. Have you seen that?
Mm-mm.
So who runs this world? And Charlie took a stab at it, as you did, as we all kind of do. That, but he agreed that the real power brokers of the world are above the White House. They're above the royal crown. They're international. It's a cabal of globalist, shadowy figures. It's very difficult to get your arms around it. And this is something that G. Edward Griffin has been talking about in his famous explication of Carroll Quigley. Did you watch the Quigley formula speech by G. Edward Griffin? It's really, really good. Carroll Quigley was a historian at Georgetown and a
Mhm.
self admitted stenographer of the people that run this world. And he
Oh,
hid it all in a book this thick. It's called
Freemasons.
Tragedy and Hope.
All right.
What's that?
The Illuminati.
Yes,
Freemasons.
the Bilderberg Group, the Illuminati. It's rings within rings. It's Cecil Rhodes. Remember Rhodes Scholarship? He was part of it. It's the J.P. Morgans. It's the cabal, which comes from Kabbalah, by the way,
Wrong.
who secretly deployed the Federal Reserve on Jekyll Island in
Mhm.
1910 and got it approved by Congress in 1913 after having major disagreements on what to call the thing. So they settled on Federal Reserve, which sounds quasi-governmental, but it isn't. It's
Yeah.
basically a rogue government that sets the terms of our economy.
Yeah.
So I want to give a plug to G. Edward Griffin and his book, The Creature of Jekyll Island. And
Yeah,
if I,
yeah.
yeah,
Everyone is telling me I have somebody that keeps telling me I have to read it, but I
it's
haven't
so
yet.
good, and Ed brings it down to the sixth grade level where I need it. I get lost in all the language of high finance puts me to sleep.
But yeah, it's like, you've got the conservative, sort of the smaller government, and then the ones that people that want bigger government. But in a weird way, like what we're seeing now is, because I've always been of the mind, like, okay, this isn't capitalism. This is actually corporatism, which is the
Mhm.
connection between state and business. But the thing is, like, even if you have the perfect free market capitalist situation, like, it will evolve into a corporatist situation. How do you prevent that? I mean, I did a I published a piece on Substack about the founding fathers of America and how they were I was like, why wouldn't they put in the Constitution separation of business, or, the economy and the states, it's separation of, like,
Mhm.
like a real, like, disclaimer, like, governments cannot get involved in business, right? And they didn't want it. They were Freemasons, and they were very much enriched during that time. Like, a lot of their industries, benefited from a lot of the policies they put in place.
Mhm. That's another example, I think, Pia, of things happening in one zone of time. You've got the rise of the Illuminati and the Freemasonry and the founding of America. It's all the last in the closing chapters of the 18th century. Another interesting
Yeah, in
thing.
fact, I read a book, by, he's kind of an esoteric thinker, Manly P. Hall, called like, it's The Idea of America or something like that,
Oh,
like.
major Godfather ideology. What's the best word to put it? Uh, Mason salesman,
Yeah,
Manly.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, Manly P. Hall, yeah. So this one, I can't remember what it's called. But anyway, it's all about how the idea for America actually sort of originated, like, hundreds of years before, and
Hmm.
it was when it finally happened, it was the manifestation of this idea that had been brewing and brewing and brewing in these kind of groups, secret
Interesting.
societies. Yeah.
Well, it's the
Fascinating.
new Rome. And you can tell this by the architecture. Every single state capital has
Definitely.
Corinthian columns. It's all Roman slash Freemasonic design.
Yeah.
Well,
What we all said was the next evolution of it is actually that we as humans need to evolve and become brave. And it's like more of a spiritual freedom. I actually started writing this book ages and ages ago, right? Called Free Radicals. And it's the story of true love, enlightenment, and revolution. And the whole idea is it's about these two people, this man and woman, and they kind of hopefully I'll finish it at some point. And in fact, I started Lazy Fair Lounge because I have another book that I want to publish. And I'm like, as soon as I get 10,000 followers on each, I'll do it. And now I've reached way more than I've got like 15,000 followers on each, and I still haven't published it. So at some point, there will
Is
be a
your
book
is your Substack a procrastination tool to not finish the books?
to not finish the book, basically. I'm like, I just don't have time. But yeah, so it's about this man and woman, and they kind of want to like change the world. They're these like kind of young firebrand, you know, like rebels. But then
Mm-hmm.
they realize actually it's not about changing the world. They realize that the real revolution is like an internal revolution. It's like changing yourself. And then by changing yourself, the world around you hopefully changes.
You just summarized why I do what I do, right in that compressed form of it. Very good. Yeah.
Amazing.
So finish it. We'll talk about it on the show.
Perfect. I will.
Yeah. All right. I'll cut you loose, Pia. Thank you so much. Everyone, go to Laissez Faire Lounge. It's TikTok. It's a Substack. I subscribe. You should too. Help her channel grow because she's a one of a kind dot connector, and I appreciate your work so much, Pia. Thanks for joining us.
And I love watching your reels, and and you have a really lovely way about you. Yeah, it's
Oh,
nice to have
thanks,
conversations. Nice to just have like chats and not
Roger.
you know not
To
be
all my enemies, it's on record. Pia Varma said there's a lovely way about me. So,
exactly.
all right. Take care. We'll do it again, Pia.
It's not
All right.
debate, it's blood sport.
Amen. Your lips to God's ears. All right. Thanks again.
Okay, see you. Bye.
This is the Patrick Coffin Show. Be a saint. What else is there?